Well, happy Saturday, Vinyl Community people. It's Mike, MGK Boston, back with another video. Today is just going to be recent finds. I did a record show 2 weeks ago tomorrow. That was up in Peabody, Mass. And that's the one where I met Shamrock and Records, Brian, Jonathan from Cheap and Cheerful Record Collector, my buddy Anthony from Gambler 218, and the Ralstonian Wheel of Music, Steve. They were all up there at that show, and my friend Bryant went with me, but he doesn't have a YouTube channel. He's just a cool dude. So anyway, I went to that show, and then last weekend, I popped into my local shop here. That's the place that doesn't price anything, but sometimes it's a real fiesta. Sometimes it's a total siesta. Well, last weekend, she had this huge collection she purchased, and it was a mix of some really good stuff. So this is going to be probably part 1 of 2. I may do the sequel, if you will, tomorrow, because I got too many to show. So I'm just going to show 10 here because I don't want to hold you all up and waste your Saturday looking at me here. So anyway, what do we got here? So I'm going to kick it off here with this. This was great. This was a find I got last weekend. It's Julian Cannonball Adly right here. So this is actually 2 records that were released separately in 1961, but this is a reissue from 1990 called What I Mean. It was originally called Know What I Mean, and that was referring to side 3 and 4, which was led by Bill Evans was the band leader on that one on piano. And on side 1 and 2, piano duties were shared by 2 guys, Wynton Kelly and a guy named Victor Feldman. I know neither of those 2 players, but Nat Adderley, who was Julian's brother, Julian Cannonball, that is, Nat Adderley plays cornet on sides 1 and 2. So like it's two different records, but you're getting them in a one set here. Here he is. He's split across 2, right? There he is. It's like he's dancing. So anyway, yeah, just a legendary sax player, of course. Cannonball Adderley played with a number of people in the jazz world. So yeah, so some of the highlights on this one. I will say the Bill Evans set is better in my mind, but you know, the first record is good too. The standout for the first set, I would say, is probably a song called Lisa, and Arriving Soon is very good too. But the highlights with the Bill Evans stuff, definitely Waltz for Debbie is brilliant. That's a standard that he always does, and that's a Bill Evans composition. It's terrific. And of course, Know What I Mean, which would have been the title track from You Know What I Mean. Like I said earlier, the original 1961 album, if you were to look for that original pressing. But this is a great deal. Both of these double record set in excellent shape. I got this for $5, and it's well worth it. Let's see on here on the inside. Nothing special. I don't know this label here, Milestone. They must have bought the catalog to reissue it. I've never seen that label before, but the pressing plays great. I've listened to this through once. This was a nice listen last Sunday afternoon. So there you have it, Cannonball Adderley. All right, moving into the 80s here. The CRados. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's a Z. CRados. So these guys were from Los Angeles area, 80s. They were supposed to be, it's one of those, the next big thing. I had never heard of them before. I just saw it, and it's one of those, it's a blind buy. I like the look of them. They're kind of like I don't say like Latino rock, like Los Lobos a little bit, but not quite. More like a Del Fuegos maybe. Just it's not mainstream pop, but yet they toured. They opened for INXS. They opened for Fleetwood Mac. Apparently Bob Dylan was a fan of these guys. When I dug a little deeper and looked online, did a little research, really fascinating. They only did 2 albums. 2 of these guys actually though, Chelo Quintana, the drummer, and this guy, Tony Morisco, these 2 guys right here, both played with Dylan on a couple of tours, apparently. So late 80s, early 90s, I'm not sure. And then the lead singer here, this guy, Tito Lariva, he has a band now. The name escapes me. But actually, they were the band, if you've ever seen the Quentin Tarantino movie, and it's great, From Dusk Till Dawn, and they're in that crazy strip club, and there's a band playing. That's this guy right here, Tito Lariva. That was his band, and I don't know, the name just escapes me. I gotta dig deeper and look up some of their stuff too, because yeah, he's a good singer. So some of the highlights on this one, There's a song on this called Just Like Roses. Man, that should have been a huge hit. It's just it's a killer tune. And there's a video for Motorcycle Girl. Motorcycle Girl was the single from this, and I think Just Like Roses is a far superior song, and that's what closes this record out. So again, this is the CRados, self-titled, from 1985, and they did a follow-up, like I said, and then Splitsville. All right, speaking of Splitsville, yes, it's Belinda Carlile. She had just left the Go-Go's. They were split up after the 3 albums, and then here she is coming in hot with her self-titled solo debut, and I mean, she is coming in hot. Look at that. I mean, just take a minute and look at that. She's fantastic, right? Oh, yeah, beautiful. Huge hit on this, kicks this off, Mad About You. If you're having a crappy day, listen to that. That'll definitely cheer you up. And then look at this cover. That'll cheer you up too, I'm sure. So, you know, it's really top 40. But again, it is what it is. She's a great singer. I like her a lot. I think she's super talented. And she's still around, still doing it, still playing live music. Shot in the Dark is another good one on this. Gotta Get to You. I mean, it all kind of blends together. There's no real standouts other than the hit, like I said, Mad About You. But it's just great. Of course, she was still on the IRS label, which was the label for the Go-Go's. And yeah, there's a different headshot of Belinda right there. And yeah, so that's it. And there's just the lyric sheet. So that's Belinda Carlile, self-titled, right there from 1986. Fantastic. All right. Mixing it up like I like to do. Keep it eclectic. It's Roy Buchanan, blues legend. Should have got bigger acclaim than he's had. He was active right from the 60s up through the 70s. And then when this was recorded, I want to say 1986 was the release on this one. He'd been active for a long time, like I just said. So this one, he collaborates with Delbert McClinton. There's Delbert McClinton right there. And Delbert sings on a couple songs on here. There's a song here called The Chokin' Kind. That's a really great track. And you can't judge a book by the cover. That's another good one. And the name of this one here is, yeah, he's dancing on the edge right there. There he is right there, slaying it on the 6th string. Sting. A couple of great instrumentals on here. He does a great version of Peter Gunn. Kicks this thing off. It's a rockin' version of Peter Gunn like you've never heard before. Jungle Jim is great. Now, none of these songs really go beyond 4 minutes. Short and sweet, but he gets the point. And this copy is mint. Like, look at this. Mint. And it was part of this collection that she had. Of course, they're on the Alligator label. I mean, just really excellent shape. And again, this is one, you know, I got for $5, and it's great. I love Roy Buchanan. So when I saw this and the shape it's in, a lot of the times it's hard to find blues, and when you do, it's super expensive or it's banged all to crap, right? Like it's been dragged behind a car, but not this. This is like store fresh, if you will. Like it was 1986 all over again, and here it is. That's Roy Buchanan, Dancing on the Edge. Here's one you've probably seen a million times, so I'm not going to go on and on about it. I had a copy of this from high school. It grew legs and walked away from me a million years ago, so when I saw a clean copy like this for a few bucks, I grabbed it. It's just fun, you know, it takes me back to my teen years, and, you know, the guitar stylings of the great Steve Stevens right there. So, yeah. Saw Billy Idol with the Cult. That was a good concert from way back. Looks like I've already had to replace the inner sleeve on here. You can see right there. But yeah, you know, all the tunes on here. Come on, White Wedding. You know, Hot in the City was actually one of my really favorite tunes on this one. And of course, Love Calling is good. And Dancing with Myself. That was a huge single from this one too. Dancing with Myself. How about Dancing with this one? It's Nancy Sinatra. I'd have a dance with Nancy. So this was from her TV special from 1968 that she did. Didn't hurt that her father, Frank Sinatra, I believe he was part owner of the Reprise label at this point, because Frank had switched from Capitol. When he was on Capitol all through the 50s, he switched over, and he was with on the Reprise label. And so, of course, was his daughter, Nancy Sinatra. So there's a mix on here. She does a tune on here, Younger Than Springtime, right here, and it says, with a very close relative. Well, it's Frank Sinatra singing with her on that one. And then Dean Martin's on this one, on this somewhere, and he's not credited. I forget what song. I've only listened through this once, but I was familiar with a couple of the tracks she does on here with Lee Hazelwood. They do a version of the Johnny Cash song, Jackson, right there. And right there, there's Some Velvet Morning, and that's also a duet with Lee Hazelwood. So there she is on the back. There she is on the front. And that's Moving with Nancy. I think on the inside, yeah. You just see Reprise. I had to replace the sleeve, you can see, but cool Reprise logo right there. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe Frank Sinatra had his hand in ownership of Reprise. All right, where are we here? Yes. So this was on my want list for a long time. I really like Rodney Crowell. He's a singer-songwriter from the 70s, if you don't know him. Well, he's still active today, but he was writing songs for other people, and then he hooked up with Emmylou Harris, not hooked up romantically, but he was an active player, I want to say probably from 1975 to about 1980. This debut from Rodney came out, what year on this one? 1978 on Warner Brothers. So he was still playing in Emmylou Harris's her band that she toured with and her band that she recorded her records with, pretty much between 1974 and into the early 80s, was called the Hot Band. And Rodney Crowell played rhythm guitar and backing vocals in the Hot Band. And he was also a songwriter and wrote a few songs as well for Emmylou Harris. So it's just a who's who of the personnel on this. Like, look at the credits here. There's a nice shot of Rodney on the back. This is a promo copy. Looks like it was for a radio station. That's just a weird sticker on the front that but the record itself is great. So, of course, Hank DeVito on pedal steel, he was in the Hot Band with Emmylou Harris. Brian Ahern, who was Emmylou Harris's husband, he's on this playing acoustic guitar. So, kind of cool story about Brian Ahern. He was the producer and played in the Hot Band too, and he was Emmylou Harris's husband for a little while. Didn't last very long, but he was actually from Canada, from Toronto, and he actually was the guy that discovered and produced the first couple of Anne Murray albums before he split and moved to Los Angeles, and that's when he met Emmylou Harris in the 70s, and the rest was history, right? Just a little side trivia there on Brian Ahern. Very interesting guy, and he became a huge producer and ended up setting down roots in Nashville and producing records for George Jones, among others. Really big deal, Brian Ahern. And who else is on this that you might know? It's a bunch of session guys here, but of course Emmylou Harris, like I said, there she is. She shows up and plays acoustic guitar and sings some backing vocals on this one. So yeah, I got to name a couple songs on here. Really, really great ballad on here is California Earthquake. I love that song. Leaving Louisiana in the Broad Daylight. That's another these are all Rodney Crowell songs for the most part on this that he wrote. Baby Better Start Turning Them Down. That's another good one too. So I Ain't Living Long Like This is the name of this album. You can see right there. And actually, he wrote that song for Waylon Jennings, and Waylon did a really great version of that too. Of course, again, that's I Ain't Living Long Like This. I'll spin it out. So that's Rodney Crowell's debut from 1978. Really an excellent album. All right. Party Time with the Sir Douglas Quintet, featuring the vocal stylings of the late, great Doug Sahm. Another Texas outfit. These guys, they'd say, critics call them like the inventors of the Tex-Mex sound, I guess you'd call it. Kind of a hybrid of country and rock and blues. It's a real stew of music. But if you're in a bar and you heard these guys, it's great. It's just really excellent party music. And this is a live album, really later on in their career. This is from 1983, and this is recorded across two venues. Whiskey A Go-Go, of course, in Los Angeles, and what's the name of this other place? Club Foot in Austin, Texas. But and it's mixed up. It's not like side one is in one venue and side two is in another. But you can see they credit the songs, and you can, if you do find this album, if it matters. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of, hey, that sounds different because it was recorded at the Whiskey. No, it all plays through nicely, and it's great. But this would have been an excellent band to see live for certain. There's no doubt. They just, it's great. She's About a Mover, that's an old Doug Sahm song from 1965, 66. That was always a favorite that they would play. Wooly Bully, they do a great funny version of that. That's the Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs tune. They do a cover of that. That's great. The Rains Came. And then Mendocino, Dynamite Woman. That's another good one too. And of course, they do a Bob Dylan tune on here, even a cover of Tom Thumb Blues. That was one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs. It's the only song that Phil Lesh ever sang, to my knowledge, for the Dead. And that was covered, that's Dylan's song, Like I'm Pointing At. That's Tom Thumb's Blues. And of course, Sir Douglas Quintet do a great version. This was a super great find, and it's in excellent condition. Like, look at that jacket, not a mark on it, not even ring wear. Oh, I'm having a hard time with the English language today. And they're on that label, Tacoma. Yeah, I think I showed a Tacoma label in a video a few weeks ago. Yeah, cool. So that's Sir Douglas Quintet. All right. Don't normally show greatest hits, but what the hell. Little honky-tonk action here with the great Carl Smith. This is celebrating his 20 years of hits, as you can see right here. So this is 1970. You can see here's a bunch of these are other Carl Smith albums on the inside here. I only actually have one of these on here, and that's I Love You Because. Bought that about a year ago, and that was a big song for Carl, a big hit. Another song on here you might look up is Good Deal, Lucille. That's good. It's All Right. That's great. I Feel Like Crying. There She Goes. Are You Teasing Me? It's great. This is a double album set. Show, gatefold, and that's Carl Smith. Honky-tonk action on a Saturday. Blues action for a Saturday here. This is B.B. King from 1971. He took a trip across the pond, and guess what? He ended up right there at Abbey Road, and he did this session with here's another who's who. Look at the personnel on this. I mean, everybody's on here. Really beautiful gatefold, in excellent condition. There's the great Bobby Keys down there on the saxophone. Of course, longtime player with the Rolling Stones, Bobby Keys. Peter Green's on this. Steve Marriott. There's Steve Marriott right there. I like these they're all like little Kodak shots here, right? What else we got here? Gary Wright, Jim Keltner, of course, playing drums. Jim Keltner played with everybody. He was everywhere around this time. But yeah, some of the highlights on this one. Caledonia, they do a great version of that standard. And on that one, you got Peter Green playing guitar, Gary Wright on organ. Yeah, it's just great. Bobby Keys on sax. Ghetto Woman's another good one on here. That's with Gary Wright on piano. And Ringo Starr's on that on drums, on Ghetto Woman that is. It's just really great. It's a beautiful collection. And it's B.B. King in London at Abbey Road. Excellent, from 1971. All right, and lastly, this is another one on my want list, and there it was. And look at it. It's just like, this is a repress, I'm sure. This is not an original from 1968, but regardless, it's in excellent condition. And this was the debut Bob Seger System, not Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. This is a younger Bob Seger. But a song on this, the only song on this that really became later part of his concert rotation is Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, and that's the name of this album. And he was trying to, at this point, he was uncertain what direction. So some of this is straight up Seger, like you'd hear later on into the 70s, like Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. But then he takes a foray on a couple of these, goes a little psychedelic, and it doesn't really work. A song like Gone is kind of the throwaway. But then 2 + 2 = question mark. That was an anti-Vietnam song. It's really good, really great lyrics in that one too. And the last song on this, it's called The Last Song, Love Needs to Be Loved. That's a good one too. But cool artwork on this. Look at this chick on the front, looking positively heavenly. Let's see here. Yeah, this is just on the Capitol label. So there you have it. This is going to be part 1 of my recent finds here in Massachusetts, the greater Boston area. I'll maybe do a part 2 tomorrow, but I'm supposed to do some apple picking with Patty tomorrow, and she's going to make a couple of pies. So I went for a long run this morning, so I'll be ready to have some sweets, right? Anyway, whatever you're doing, it's finally stopped raining here. It's not a day at the beach today, but you can see the sky and it's not gloomy. So we're halfway there, folks. The cup is half full, as the saying goes. Whatever you're doing on a Saturday, hope it's great, and I'll see you in the next video.